This story is so well known, but it's also so powerful, and that's why we've kind of cut it in half. But last night I was saying that Christmas is no doubt the biggest opportunity to discover the power of Christ in an individual's life. Strangely enough, Jesus, for many, is a magnetic field that just draws. But it's also true that the words Jesus Christ are a minefield. And depending on what your experience has been in your family or in your church, or, if, your interaction with other Christians, people walk away with a variety of experiences and feelings about this person, Jesus. And they reveal who we are and what it is about our life. Last night, two questions, one last night and one today. Last night we asked the question, how did Jesus come? And basically we said that Jesus came to a world in crisis. And ironically, if you go back to the Christmas story, it mentions not only the Caesar of Rome, but the governor of Syria. And it's so ironic that today Syria is in the headlines. All we're seeing is a high-tech, even more extremely violent version of what was happening 2,000 years ago. It's right there in the news. And so Jesus came to a world in crisis. He came to people with everyday problems. Mary and Joseph, all they wanted to do was get married and have a baby, and then God got in the middle of it. And it was amazing for them, I'm sure. And we'll see a little more of that today. But also, it complicates life. And God comes to our complicated life. But Christ comes, thirdly, with hope, accepting us as we are, not as we should be, and offering us new life. Well, this morning I just want to take the rest of this passage from verse 15 to the end of this famous Christmas story and ask the question, what does this mean? So now, in light of all those things, what does this mean? And it basically means this, that Jesus is coming as a call to action for all of our lives. That God comes, and I really love this. I was reading Oswald Chambers this morning, and it said that the incarnate Christ came to heaven through the lowest door possible. Isn't that amazing? That God would come to us through the lowest door possible. And so now all of that about the legitimacy of Jesus' birth and the being born in a stable someplace. All of that, while it makes a really good story, believing that it's true reminds us of something fascinating about the God that we worship. How close in God is. So I believe that the essential meaning of Jesus' coming is that he calls us to an action that is similar to his own. And so there's really three things that happens in this call. And the first is a call to curiosity. So I've had some of you mention, and we have last night and this morning, we don't have an outline. What are we going to do? How are we going to keep people awake? So if there were a fill in the blank, you would write curiosity somewhere. So maybe write it on your heart. Verse 15 says that after the angels had talked to the shepherds, they said, let us go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which was told to us about the Lord. That they were willing to find out. I wonder if we're living now with all the things you can press with your fingers and all the digital age and all the wonderful technology that we have. I wonder if we're starving for a bit of the imagination. I think the video we saw just kind of, wow, could we reimagine things the way kids see them? And it's the wonder. We get to a stage in life and we're just kind of, how do I get through? How do I make it all happen? The curiosity of the shepherds, their desire to see, what is this thing? What else can I know about Christmas? What else could we learn? What else could we understand? And then verse 20 of our passage, the shepherds returned, and I'm assuming they're returning back to their regular life as shepherds, which wasn't a lot to return to. But the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which is just how it had been told to them. Isn't that interesting? I'm wondering this morning, does our curiosity factor grow enough that we return to whatever we return to whenever this holiday is over for you with a heightened sense of curiosity, wonder, the majesty of God, the mystery of who God is? We tell these two ancient stories, the Christmas story and the Easter story. They're phenomenal stories, where you almost know them so well. Like Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, we're up so close to it. There's just no way you can. We were watching something, I think it was 60 Minutes last week, and they were talking about the choir that attends to the Pope and they sing in the Sistine Chapel. It's so hard for Michelangelo to be that close. I think sometimes we're so close to the Christmas story or the Easter story that we just need to back away from it and let some wonder and curiosity take over. You know, Jesus is wanting to draw us to himself. Sometimes we make the gospel so theological, so complicated. There's a secret avenue through this passage, and the Greek text says this, and all that's important, and all that must be studied. But this simple story that these children were able to get a hold of and cause the adults, to work through their lives is much about wonder and curiosity. His coming is a call to action for us to communicate. Did you notice verse 17? When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told about the child. And all who heard it were amazed to hear the shepherds say these things to them. We talked about last night that I just love how God works. You see, the shepherds were a class of people that worked the fields, but they were regarded as such untrustworthy, ornery people that they were never allowed to testify in a court of law because they couldn't ever be believed as true. So here's your God and my God, bringing the most important story ever told to people who are not allowed to testify. God deliberately handicaps the gospel so that we must see it through eyes of curiosity. And by the way, when it all is true, we know that it's God's doing, because the shepherds weren't the kind of people that could pull this off. They couldn't make it happen. I hope this part of it we can really listen to. Because you can imagine how excited they were at everything they saw. And I think it would even be true to say that the shepherds didn't even understand what they were saying. This is a story that would be told over and over and over again. 2,000 years and running. And we're still not done with it. But check this out. God trusted seemingly untrustworthy, unschooled people to share this important message. Now bring it back to us. God trusts you to tell the story to. How many times have we said, I couldn't share Christ with anyone. I couldn't. Exactly. Yes, you can. This is what this is all about. We want to package this in some kind of way in which only the professionals. I love this. Christmas The essence of Christmas is owned and delivered by complete amateurs. Every one of them. The cast of characters in the Nativity are not spokesmen. They're not presidential press secretaries. They're not politicians. They're not news anchor people. They're shepherds and, teenage moms. Dads, they don't get it. Maybe the wise men, the three kings that come. Maybe there's a little bit of loftiness, but even them were considered Gentiles from a far off land. You're not going to tell us, you're not going to bring your ideas here and tell us. Complete amateurs. And God trusts the message of communication with them. He trusts the message of communication with each of us. The last piece is probably the most beloved. Not only is it a call to action to our curiosity and communication, but verse 19 is simply profound for a pregnant teenage girl whose legitimacy is somewhat questioned. Verse 19. But Mary, and you see this, by the way, if you see this word, but, often it's contained with but God. I mean, it's a great Bible study. If everything you read in the Bible this year you circled, and then you came back at the end of 2017 and found out, but God. Their backs are to the wall. The Pharaoh is coming and they're up against the Red Sea, but God. And Daniel's being dragged off to the lion's den, but God. And this is similar. But Mary treasured these things and pondered them in her heart. Not only is it a call to curiosity and communication, but thirdly, this story is a call to all of us to contemplate what this story means deeply within our hearts. She treasured this, which means she somehow, what do you do with treasure, right? Just think of the words and give yourself a little, you gather up all that treasure and you put it in a secure place, right? You treasure it. You put it in a vault. It's hidden under the mattress. It's in a shoebox in the back of all your treasures, all those things. Mary somehow has some way, which were not explained, that she was able to, she remembered the angel. And she remembered the story of the angel coming to Joseph. She remembers shepherds and the kings. She remembers tragically the bemoaning and the wailing of children as in the nick of time. The baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph will find themselves going out the backside of Bethlehem when the armies of Herod are coming to kill all the children 2 years and younger. All of these things. Warned in an angel when they were coming back to Bethlehem, no, go to your original home in Nazareth. And she does. And then can you imagine that she's raising this child? I mean, Jesus in kindergarten, and growing up, and all of his friends, and questioning. Ever thought of what it would be like to teach God how to pray? Have devotions with the Son of God. See, we could, if we just stay with Christmas card, just a single-dimensional gospel, we're really going to miss a lot. But all of that, which makes more poignant the times in which Mary and the brothers and daughters of Mary and Joseph come to Jesus and say, hey, it's time for you to come home. This is getting out of hand. Right? Or that solemn scene where Mary's at the foot of the cross, and she had no idea that she had been told this son would be the Son of God. And on that dark and gloomy, we call it Good Friday, but, wasn't a great day for Jesus. She's at the foot of the cross as her son is murdered there, and thinking, is this God's plan? I mean, how many times this year did you raise your hand and say, God, is this your plan for me? I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. Or I really thought something else would turn out better or different for my family or my loved ones or my community. You see, all of this makes this Christmas story poignant as we find out that, and for me, it's a journal. I try to note the kinds of things that happen throughout the year and in my life and treasure it. But then she does something more. It says, then she pondered these things. So she not only treasured them, but she pondered them. And so I guess the real fuel for being a contemplative is not only writing it down, but then being able to go back to that source. Sad to say, but my hand would have to go in the air. I'm kind of day to day. I'm at the next crisis. I've showed up and then, go home and go to bed and get up the next day and do it all again. But boy, take some time to think about these days. Maybe it's when Christmas comes on a Sunday and everyone gets Monday off and you're able to swing Friday off. Maybe the long weekend. Maybe today is a great day to read this story again and just ask God something about, wow, what's in this for me? What are we talking about here? Take some moments to contemplate the awesome wonder of who God is. That Jesus came into history from the outside. His life is the highest and holiest, entering at the lowliest door. Wow. I'm sure if we thought about that, we might think differently of some of the things that we think God's wrong about. I know that sounds strong, but that's how it comes across. God's got to be wrong about that. The challenge this morning is to think about God coming to us and being a blessing unto us first. So you can't give what you don't have, right? So that's where I want to start. I found this. I want to read this this morning. It says, when God sent His Son, God made Jesus a man of sorrows so He would know our griefs. God made Jesus a servant so He would know our needs. God made Jesus a sacrifice so he would know how to save us. God made Him a shepherd so we could be led to the Father's love. Maybe you want to just a tiny, use a little bit of your imagination. Let God communicate to you. Think of a little bit of contemplation. How has your year been? Do you need the Jesus of sorrow because of great grief and loss this year? Maybe that's where it stops for you. Maybe that's the Jesus you need this week. Maybe you need the Jesus servant because there's still some need. It's this far to go to the end of the year and you're just that close, right? There's some need that wants to be fulfilled. Maybe you need the Jesus of sacrifice. Maybe there's something yet to be saved from. We talk about salvation, saving us from our sins, but there's other ways in which our lives need to be delivered from the things that happen to us. Maybe you need the Jesus who is the shepherd that just plainly leads you to the love of the Father, the love of God. So here's the challenge that I have for you this morning. Have we allowed our lives to become a Bethlehem for the Son of God? We love to set up the nativities. We've at the Mitchell household, people now know we do this, so they give them to us all the time, which is really wonderful. We just got them stuck everywhere. But we travel when we get a chance and find nativities from Ethiopia or Paris or Ireland. It's amazing how people see this. Somehow be reminded that our heart is the Bethlehem, is a room in our heart. Our heart's either going to be Bethlehem or it's going to be the inn in which there's no room. If we can receive from Christ, then we can be the Bethlehem that becomes the place in which our lives can be touched. You see, the world is not real good at curiosity and wonder. We just want the facts. Dragnet, just the facts, man. We just, give us. I don't want to engage the imagination. We're really not good with communication today, with a divorce rate of 50%, even in the church. Communication always comes up as one of the top three. And our culture does not produce communicators. And yet God is saying, I want you to talk to me about your life. And of course, in our busy, high-tech society, contemplation is not something that we come to naturally either. These are really three counterintuitive ways in which God wants us to open our lives. And so that's the challenge. The curiosity, the communication, the contemplation to be the recipient of Jesus so that we become then the fountainhead of Jesus to others. Maybe just our family. Maybe someone we know. Somehow all of this comes to touch our lives and lead us to be the people that God wants us to be. Let us pray together. Jesus, we are grateful, we are thankful to this